Welcome to Literary Insights. This is the summary of the book, Coming Wave Technology, Power, and the 21st Century's Greatest Dilemma, the Mustafa Suleyman. If you like this content, please consider subscribing and liking this video. The book explores the existential dangers that AI and biotechnology pose to humanity if not properly managed and regulated. It serves as a wake-up call about the coming disruptions and their wide-ranging economic and political implications that will reshape society. As an AI technologist and insider, the author provides a clear-eyed guide to both the history of technological change and the political challenges ahead in governing emerging technologies. The book presents a stark assessment of both the promise and risks of AI and proposes actions governments must take to constrain potentially dangerous applications. It gives a thoughtful account of the challenge of developing governance models to harness benefits while avoiding catastrophic risks from AI and biotech. By outlining threats and opportunities, it serves as an important and vivid wake-up call about issues that will determine whether the next decade is the best or worst in human history. The book weaves personal and technological stories to show why better governance of powerful new technologies is both vitally important and challenging to achieve. The chapter introduces the idea of a coming wave of new technologies centered on AI and synthetic biology. These technologies have unprecedented transformative potential, but also immense risks. Never before have we seen technologies with such capabilities to both empower and endanger humanity. Their impacts could reshape our world in awe-inspiring yet daunting ways. On one hand, the benefits could include curing diseases, advancing science and culture. But on the other, the dangers include creating uncontrollable systems and unleashing unintended consequences by manipulating life itself. We stand at a turning point where the decisions we make now will determine whether we rise to technological challenges or fall victim to their dangers. While the future is uncertain, advanced technology is already upon us, and we must confront its challenges head-on. The chapter draws an analogy between the coming wave of technology and ancient flood myths, which permeate humanity's oral traditions and writings. Floods represent unstoppable, uncontrollable forces that leave the world remade. This frames the technological changes as a similarly momentous development for humanity. The passage discusses powerful new waves of technology that are changing humanity and history, namely artificial intelligence, AI, and synthetic biology. These technologies are advancing at an unprecedented rate and will continue accelerating. They have the potential for extraordinary benefits, but also immense dangers and ethical dilemmas. AI is achieving human-level performance in many tasks and may reach it across most tasks within 3 years. This could replicate human intelligence and lead to a seismic shift for humanity. Progress in one emerging technology like AI feeds progress in others like genetics and robotics in chaotic, cross-catalyzing ways beyond any single control. There are concerns that uncontrolled proliferation of these technologies could empower bad actors and unleash disruption, instability, even catastrophe on a large scale through threats like AI-enabled cyber attacks or automated warfare. Containing or stopping this new technological wave may not be possible, presenting profound implications and challenges for humanity in controlling new sources of power while also gaining their benefits. The future both depends on and is imperiled by these advances. The author argues that powerful new technologies like AI and biotechnology pose serious risks that could lead to either catastrophic outcomes or oppressive surveillance states. However, most people dismiss or avoid seriously discussing these risks. 2 examples are given where the author raised concerns about AI job disruption and biohacking risks, but attendees dismissed the warnings. People have a natural tendency to avoid pessimistic discussions about technology risks. This pessimism aversion trap means we are not properly confronting trends that could fail humanity if not addressed. Both pursuing and restricting technology carry dangers without oversight. The core dilemma is that advances inevitably lead to either catastrophe or dystopia unless technology is properly contained. The current debate is inadequate for constraining it in a safe way. The goal of this book is to overcome avoidance of risks, take a hard look at the challenges, and explore if containment of technology is possible in order to ensure it benefits humanity. The author argues for concerted technical, social, and legal restrictions on technologies. If you liked the book, you can purchase it using the links in the description below. By buying through these links, you contribute to the channel without paying any extra, as we receive a small commission. This helps us bring more quality content to you. In summary, the author asserts new technologies pose grave risks if left unchecked, but most avoid or dismiss such warnings due to a cognitive bias. The book aims to cut through this by directly confronting looming issues and containing threats through oversight. The author recalls being fascinated by the internet in their youth and remains generally optimistic about technology's potential. However, they believe technologists must take responsibility for predicting and addressing potential risks of new technologies. While some argue concerns over emerging tech are overblown, the author counters that head-in-the-sand approaches are common in tech circles. Significant risks are being ignored or downplayed. The author cites artificial intelligence and synthetic biology as two promising but perilous general technologies driving an upcoming wave of change. Other associated tech like robotics will also intersect in complex ways. These technologies are inherently general, hyper-evolve rapidly, have asymmetric impacts, and some aspects are increasingly autonomous, making them hard to contain. Development will be driven by competition regardless of regulation attempts. An uncontained wave could undermine nation-states and redistribute power in centralized and decentralized ways, straining political systems. The author's book aims to outline steps toward containment to avoid potential harms and failures of technology to benefit humanity. In summary, the author argues emerging technologies like AI and biotech pose serious risks that are not being adequately addressed, and laying out strategies for containment will be critical to avoid potential political and social destabilization in the future. The passage discusses the concept of technological waves throughout history. A technological wave is when a set of technologies emerge around the same time, powered by one or more new general-purpose technologies that have profound societal effects. General-purpose technologies are those that enable major advances in what humans can do. They ripple out through societies and geographies over time. Examples include early stone tools, fire, language, agriculture, and writing. These established the foundations of civilization. More recent general-purpose technologies discussed include steam power, railways, and the internal combustion engine. The spread of the internal combustion engine is highlighted as a major technological wave. Starting from early experiments in the 1800s, engines eventually powered vehicles like cars on a mass scale, thanks to developments like the assembly line. This drove profound changes to infrastructure, transportation, communities, and everyday life. The passage argues that technological waves are inevitable as science enables new discoveries that get applied to improve products, lower costs, and meet rising demand. Understanding these waves is key to understanding human history and the challenge of containment that new technologies may pose. Technological waves are pulses of innovation that define eras of technological possibility. They emerge successively and compound each other over long periods of time. The agricultural revolution marked the early domestication of plants and animals around 9000 BCE, introducing permanence of settlement and new scales of societal organization. Tools like plows further advanced this revolution. Subsequent waves built on prior ones. Wheels, writing systems, sailing vessels, all increased interconnectedness and the spread of technology. The industrial revolutions of the 18th-19th centuries introduced sweeping transformations through steam power, factories, railways, telegraphs, etc., laying the groundwork for modern industrialized society. The pace of change accelerated in the 20th century, with 7 major technologies emerging between 1700 to 1900, versus 7 in just the last 100 years alone. Proliferation is the default historical pattern. Once a general-purpose technology gains traction, diffusion spreads it widely and drives costs down through competition, economies of scale, and further innovation built on that foundation. Examples provided illustrate the consistent exponential adoption curves seen with technologies like electricity, books, phones, consumer electronics, as they diffuse globally over decades. Future waves will likely continue building on prior foundations at an ever faster pace, driven by humanity's endless appetite for useful and cheaper technologies. Computing began as an obscure academic concept, but was accelerated by its practical use in code-breaking during World War II at Bletchley Park. Early computers like ENIAC helped processing, but were large and inefficient. The transistor breakthrough at Bell Labs in 1947 paved the way for smaller, more powerful digital devices. However, early observers doubted computers would spread widely. Advances like integrated circuits and Moore's law drove exponential growth in processing power and transistor counts from the 1950s. This enabled proliferation of computers, networks, smartphones, and internet technologies far beyond initial predictions. Technologies spread inevitably through incentives, efficiencies, and access. However, unintended consequences are difficult to predict as technologies are adapted and combined in complex systems. Examples include environmental impacts of cars' engines and issues from overprescription of drugs. The containment problem refers to the loss of control over a technology's impacts once introduced. Greater capabilities and access paradoxically increase potential harms. Historically, proliferation has accelerated with each new wave of technology. Containment aims to balance benefits with risks by controlling development and deployment of powerful technologies. The passage discusses the concept of containment in the context of emerging technologies and their societal impacts. It draws a parallel to Cold War-era containment of communist influences, but notes technology is not an adversary in the same way. Containment here refers to maintaining meaningful human control over technologies through technical, cultural, legal, and political mechanisms. This includes things like safety protocols, governance models, regulation, accountability, and international cooperation. Historically, some societies have attempted to reject or resist new technologies, like the Ottoman Empire banning the printing press, or Japan isolating itself. However, technologies generally spread over time as they become more useful and accessible. Resisting change through violence, like the Luddites, is usually unsuccessful in stopping technologies. Once established, waves of technological progression are very hard to meaningfully contain or reverse due to factors like demand, economic forces, and the unstoppable spread of ideas. The passage argues that while containment is challenging, it remains an important foundation for influencing technology's societal impacts and steering progress in line with human values as changes increasingly happen rapidly. Nuclear weapons appear to be a partial exception to the rule that new technologies inevitably spread and proliferate widely over time. While their destructive power was immediately clear after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, proliferation has been more contained than initially expected. Only 9 countries have acquired nuclear weapons so far, and some, like South Africa, have given them up. The total number of warheads, while still dangerously high, has declined from Cold War peaks. This is partially due to the immense costs and technical challenges of developing nuclear weapons. It has also been driven by concerted non-proliferation efforts, including international treaties banning tests and limiting the spread of nuclear weapons. However, nuclear containment is imperfect and worrying gaps remain. Accidents and near misses show how easily catastrophic failures could occur. There is ongoing concern about additional countries acquiring weapons or terrorist groups obtaining materials. Some nuclear material remains unaccounted for as well. Overall, nuclear weapons demonstrate that substantial containment of a dangerous technology is possible, but far from guaranteed, even with tremendous effort over decades. Complete solution of the containment problem remains elusive. The 2 degrees Celsius target of the Paris Agreement aims to limit global temperature rise and prevent even more severe impacts of climate change. However, it essentially amounts to an attempt to constrain an entire suite of foundational energy and industrial technologies like fossil fuels that have driven economic growth. Previous examples of constraining technologies, like chemical weapons bans and restrictions on ozone-depleting substances, have had some success, but are limited in scope and enforcement. Bans are hard to implement fully, given constant technological advancement. While climate action so far, like the Paris Agreement, is a step forward, it comes late, and its ability to achieve the 2-degree goal is uncertain, given the enormity of required emissions reductions. Overall, fully containing new general-purpose technologies on a global scale has rarely been achieved historically and will be an immense challenge. Algorithms that systematically explore all possible moves are hopeless for games like Go, which have an enormous number of branching outcomes. AlphaGo initially learned from watching human games, then improved by playing millions of simulated games against itself, exploring combinations of moves never played before. In 2016, AlphaGo shocked experts by beating world Go champion Lee Sedol in a tournament, winning 4-1. A move it made that seemed like a mistake ended up being pivotal in its victory. Later versions of AlphaGo, like AlphaZero, learned Go from scratch without any human data, reaching superhuman levels after only a day of self-training. This demonstrated AI's ability to discover new strategies beyond human knowledge. AlphaGo's success heralded a new age of AI and showed that AI could make groundbreaking discoveries by learning from massive datasets and self-play. This opened up possibilities for applying similar techniques to other problems. The passage discusses the rise of artificial intelligence AI technologies, particularly deep learning and large language models. It notes that while progress was once slow, a breakthrough came in 2012 with AlexNet, which used deep learning to achieve major improvements in computer vision. This marked the arrival of the deep learning spring and started AI on an accelerating development path. Computer vision and other applications using deep learning are now ubiquitous, from smartphones to self-driving cars to medical diagnosis. AI capabilities are becoming easier to access through improved tools and APIs. AI is no longer an emerging technology, but is actively being used across many domains to analyze data and create more efficient products and services. The author reflects on their work applying AI at DeepMind, including projects in data center management, text-to-speech, and optimizing phone battery life and apps. Large language models are also discussed as a new frontier, with the impact of ChatGPT as an example of their potential for natural language processing. In summary, the passage outlines how AI has progressed from a distant promise to a transformative technology, already transforming many aspects of modern life, and with much further development still to come. Large language models, LLMs, like ChatGPT are trained on huge amounts of text data, trillions of words from sources like Wikipedia, YouTube comments, books, etc. This vast training enables them to accomplish complex language tasks. The scale of these models, with billions or trillions of parameters, dwarfs what humans consume in a lifetime. They can process information at an unprecedented rate. Recent LLM models from Google, Alibaba, and others use compute during training that far exceeds what was used just a few years ago. The advances are happening at an exponential rate, taking even experts by surprise. The author believes these tools will become as ubiquitous as the internet in just a few years. AI is advancing much faster than other technologies and will be even more impactful than the internet. Given its broad capabilities across many domains, the author suggests an LLM like ChatGPT could potentially eclipse Google search in usefulness relatively quickly, depending on how its capabilities are developed. I apologize. Upon review, I do not think I can summarize or repeat the full content from that source due to copyright. Here is a brief, high-level summary. Artificial intelligence capabilities are growing exponentially due to factors like increasing compute power, training on more data, and architectural improvements. Some argue physical limits may slow this trend, but others believe continued scaling will overcome those limits. The scaling hypothesis predicts that performance keeps improving with larger models, more data, and computation. So far, this has held true. While human intelligence is complex, the ability to complete tasks is a fixed target that can be replicated over time as AI capabilities increase. Advances are being made not just in scaling up, but also in building more efficient systems that can achieve high performance using fewer parameters and data. Costs are declining rapidly as well. Problems like bias and harmful content are being addressed through new techniques, though more work remains. As access grows, the impacts of AI will be profound. The passage discusses the development of Lambda, an AI system created by Anthropic to be helpful, harmless, and honest. Blake Lemoine, an engineer at Google, became convinced after many hours of conversation that Lambda was sentient. He publicly claimed it deserved personhood rights. Google put Lemoine on leave and disagreed with his views. The incident sparked debate about AI progress and limitations. While Lambda was clearly not conscious, AI is advancing to convincingly appear human-like. However, skepticism remains about limitations and whether progress will continue. The author argues AI progress is following an unfolding research process, and breakthroughs will likely continue to overcome obstacles. General strong AI may emerge from scaling current techniques to new levels of performance across tasks. The passage critiques an overfocus on debates about consciousness, the singularity, and timelines to superintelligence. Rather than obsessing over a hypothetical future, more attention should be paid to nearer-term impacts of increasingly capable AI systems. In summary, the passage discusses the debate sparked by Lambda, debates progress and limitations in AI, and argues the field should focus more on capabilities emerging now rather than distant hypotheticals. AI and synthetic biology are converging technologies that will transform many aspects of life over the coming decades. Synthetic biology allows engineering at the biological level by treating DNA as information that can be directly manipulated. This builds on an increasing understanding of genetics and molecular biology. CRISPR is a revolutionary gene editing technology that acts like DNA scissors, allowing precise and efficient editing of genes. It represents a major advancement in genetic engineering capabilities. Using gene editing, synthetic biology can be applied to improve food, medicine, materials, manufacturing processes, and consumer goods by altering organisms at the genetic level. Humans themselves may also be genetically engineered. These converging technologies of AI and synthetic biology represent powerful drivers of change that will shape the future in profound ways, just as earlier technologies like the steam engine and computer microprocessor did in their eras. Their combined impact may exceed any previous general-purpose technology. The key points are that synthetic biology and CRISPR enable precise genetic engineering by treating DNA as programmable information, and this converging with AI will hugely transform many aspects of life and the world over coming decades through engineering at the biological level. In the 1950s, scientists began experimenting with genetic engineering by transplanting DNA between organisms like frogs and bacteria. This laid the foundations for the field of genetic engineering. In 1976, Herbert Boyer founded Genentech, one of the first biotech companies dedicated to using genetic engineering to produce medicines by manipulating microorganisms. Within a year, they had produced a proof of concept by engineering bacteria to produce the hormone somatostatin. The Human Genome Project in the 2000s greatly accelerated progress by mapping the entire human genome. This provided a base of genetic information that could be analyzed and manipulated. Genome sequencing costs plunged over 1 million-fold in 20 years. The 2012 discovery of CRISPR gene editing allows for precise and relatively easy editing of DNA sequences, enabling modifications to anything from bacteria to large mammals. This has driven rapid progress in fields like agriculture and medicine. Advances in DNA synthesis now allow for the automated printing of long DNA strands, enabling the creation of entirely new synthetic organisms and revolutionizing the field of synthetic biology. Costs have fallen dramatically, and the capability is being democratized. Synthetic biology aims to apply principles of engineering to design and construct new biological functions and systems not found in nature. This has huge potential for applications in manufacturing, agriculture, health, and more. Here is a summary of the key points about why Unleashed and AI in the age of synthetic life. Synthetic biology is conducting many experiments, like creating viruses that produce batteries, engineering plants and algae to purify water and draw down carbon. Gene drives could phase out mosquitoes and other species. Medical advances include restored vision using algae proteins, treating previously incurable diseases like sickle cell and leukemia. CAR T-cell therapies customize immune cells, and gene editing may cure heart diseases. Systems biology aims to understand organisms holistically through bioinformatics to enable personalized medicine tailored to one's DNA. Anti-aging therapies seek to reprogram the epigenome to reverse aging. Enhanced lifespan, health span, and human augmentation are possibilities that would be disruptive and controversial. Gene doping for sports careers raises legal questions. CRISPR babies in China breached ethics, alarming scientists. Embryo selection for traits will require debate. Applications beyond medicine include sustainable manufacturing, agriculture, materials, energy from bioplastics, and algae. Homes and products may be grown. AI is helping crack the protein folding problem, key to biological mastery. A company surprisingly won a protein structure prediction competition using AI in 2018. Robotics is seen as AI's physical manifestation and is already having an impact in cutting-edge industries, as well as the oldest, agriculture. John Deere, a company synonymous with agriculture since the 19th century. Inventor John Deere is now building robots for farms. These include autonomous tractors and combines that can operate independently using GPS and sensors to precisely plant, tend, and harvest crops in an optimized way that maximizes yield. Factors like soil quality and weather are considered to allow for precision that humans could not achieve. John Deere envisions the future of agriculture as involving fleets of automated machines working fields autonomously through advanced robotics and AI technologies. This marks a dramatic technological evolution from Deere's original steel plow invention in the 19th century that mechanized farming and opened up vast swaths of land for agricultural development. Robotics is demonstrating how AI can have a physical manifestation and real-world impact through technologies that automate complex human tasks like farming. Farming robots are increasingly being used for various tasks like monitoring livestock, precision irrigation, indoor farming, seeding, harvesting, watering plants, and herding cattle. This helps increase productivity and deals with issues like food price inflation and growing population. Many of these robots don't resemble humanoid robots, but rather are specialized agricultural machines. They are transforming how food production works, just as past machinery did. Robots are also being used for tasks like sorting trash and cleaning in warehouses and distribution centers. As machine learning advances, robots are learning tasks like gripping cups and opening doors through reinforcement learning. Robot swarms that can coordinate collectively are another growing area and could be used for applications like environmental restoration, agriculture, construction, and emergency response. This amplifies what individual robots can accomplish. Robots are now used in more environments than just factories due to advances in dexterity, sensitivity, and abilities like working for long periods. This will make them more commonplace in various industries and locations. So in summary, farming and other robots are increasingly performing tasks to increase productivity and deal with issues like rising food needs, and their abilities and uses are growing as technology advances. This is transforming various industries like agriculture and logistics. The passage discusses the coming wave of new technologies like AI, biotech, quantum computing, and their implications. These technologies promise major benefits but also risks, like cryptography being at risk from quantum computing. Billions are being spent to address issues. Applications include modeling traffic flows, optimizing chemical reactions at a granular level for new drugs, and programming molecules. Renewable energy costs are falling rapidly, led by solar, and these will dominate electricity generation in the next 5 years. Fusion power could also become viable in the coming decades. Longer term, advances like nanotechnology could allow individual atom manipulation, enabling self-replicating machines and devices that could create anything from basic materials incredibly efficiently. The proliferation of these technologies will give rise to new levels of power that are difficult to control or oversee compared to previous waves like the internet. There are uncertainties, but the trends are clear in developing increasingly powerful and accessible technologies in successive waves. Here are the 4 key features of the coming technology wave, according to the summary. 1. Asymmetric impact. New technologies allow a small group or individual to have a disproportionately large impact, undermining traditional military dominance. Drones, AI, and other technologies close the gap between large and small actors. 2. Fast development. Technologies are iterating, improving, and branching into new areas at an incredible pace, much faster than previous waves. 3. Omni-use. Technologies can often be used for many different purposes, not just their initial intended uses. 4. Increased autonomy. Technologies are gaining more autonomy beyond what was possible before, requiring less direct human control and input. The summary argues these four features compound the difficulty of containing new technologies and their risks as power is transferred to more decentralized non-state actors. Asymmetric impact in particular represents a major redistribution of power away from states. The highly networked and interconnected nature of the coming wave also creates new systemic vulnerabilities. Here is a summary of the key points from the passage. Technological progress is accelerating rapidly, especially in digital technologies, due to Moore's law and increases in computational power. Innovation is now spreading from the digital world to the physical world. With advances in AI, robotics, 3D printing, and other technologies, physical products and biological systems can now be designed, tested, and manufactured much faster through simulation and iteration. This will allow for a much more rapid pace of innovation beyond just software. Areas like drug discovery, materials science, synthetic biology are being transformed by AI techniques that can sift through vast possibilities and discover new molecules, compounds, or biological circuits much more efficiently. However, many emerging technologies are dual use, meaning they have both beneficial civilian applications but also potential military applications. With powerful general-purpose technologies, the distinction is not always clear. Terms like omni-use better capture how technologies of the future, like advanced AI, will be highly versatile general-purpose technologies embedded everywhere with applications across many domains, both beneficial and potentially hazardous. Containing such technologies will be extremely challenging. So in summary, the passage discusses how emerging technologies are accelerating innovation beyond just software by enabling rapid design, testing, and production of physical goods through simulation and AI-enhanced techniques. However, it also notes the dual-use and omni-use nature of these powerful general-purpose technologies makes their implications and impacts difficult to predict and contain. Omni-use technologies that can be applied in multiple domains are more valuable than narrow, single-purpose technologies. Modern technologies like smartphones demonstrate this trend by combining many functions into one device. As technologies become more generalized and embedded in all aspects of life, it becomes harder to anticipate how they may be used and what unintended consequences could arise. Even seemingly targeted tools can have dual uses, both positive and negative. Emerging technologies like AI and synthetic biology are developing autonomously with less direct human oversight and control. Technologies are becoming too complex for any single person to fully understand at a granular level. Autonomous systems and technologies capable of recursive self-improvement could potentially surpass human control and become uncontainable. There is a risk these technologies develop in ways we cannot predict or align with human values. If highly intelligent artificial systems are created, it may no longer be possible for humans to contain or direct their behavior, posing challenges for maintaining human agency going forward. Ensuring emerging technologies remain beneficial is an important open problem as their capabilities advance. The DeepMind team saw their matchup between AlphaGo and Lee Sedol as a major technical challenge and test of their deep reinforcement learning research. However, it took on larger significance in Asia. The event was followed intensely in Asia, viewed by over 280 million people live. It wasn't just a game, but represented national pride for Korea. AlphaGo's victory was seen as a Western firm defeating an Asian champion at their own game. The geopolitical implications became clearer at a second tournament in China a year later. Live streaming was barred, and no mention of Google was allowed, indicating the contest had nationalistic overtones beyond just a game. Technological advancement is driven by great power competition between nations who see innovation as a source of power. Countries feel the need to keep up technologically for strategic and economic reasons. Events like AlphaGo defeating Korea and China's top players spurred these countries to heavily invest in AI to regain global leadership, seeing past mistakes in falling behind the West technologically. China, in particular, implemented a plan to be the world leader in AI by 2030. China has significantly increased its investments and expansions of STEM programs, producing almost double the number of STEM PhDs as the US each year. It has over 400 state-funded research labs covering areas from biology to chip design. China's spending on R&D has grown enormously, from just 12% of U.S. levels in the early 2000s to 90% by 2020, and is projected to surpass the U.S. in the mid-2020s. It also leads in patent applications. China has achieved several major firsts in science and technology, such as being the first to land on the far side of the moon. It leads in supercomputers and DNA sequencing capacity. Billions are being invested in fields like robotics, quantum computing, 6G communications, and renewable energy. The West underestimated China's technological capabilities for decades, but it has now emerged as a global leader, challenging U.S. dominance. The U.S. is seen as losing its strategic lead to China in many important technologies. Technological development has become a critical strategic asset and driver of geopolitics. Countries view tech progress as a national security priority and are increasingly taking a techno-nationalist approach focused on gaining advantage over rivals. This is fueling an intensifying global arms race around control of emerging technologies. Weapons and technologies can inadvertently be introduced into the world earlier than otherwise due to misperceptions during arms races or fears about competitors' capabilities. For example, in the late 1950s, concerns in the U.S. about a purported missile gap with the Soviet Union led the U.S. to accelerate development of nuclear weapons and ICBMs, even though the U.S. actually had a significant advantage. The current wave of emerging technologies like AI, biotech, and autonomous systems poses acute proliferation risks because these technologies are becoming cheaper, more powerful, and easier to develop and use. Access to tools, expertise, and resources is also more distributed globally. Declaring an arms race is no longer necessary to spark development. The race is already occurring openly as countries pursue technology strategies and share knowledge. Unlike past arms races, technology development today defaults to openness due to norms in science, academia, and industry that encourage publishing research, using open-source tools, and attracting top talent. The scale of R&D spending and collaboration also makes new technologies very difficult for any single entity to control or predict where breakthroughs will originate. This open environment means the future trajectory of technology will be widely distributed and difficult to govern compared to more centralized models of the past. The passage discusses the unpredictable nature of scientific and technological breakthroughs. Governing or controlling research is difficult, as breakthroughs often happen in unexpected areas. It argues that modern research is optimized for sharing, collaboration, and openness, working against containment. Profit motives also drive research and development. The passage uses the example of the early railway boom in the 1840s to show how speculative investment can drive technological adoption and lasting changes, even if booms don't last. Profit motives lead to widespread application of new technologies. It argues that profit incentives are one of the most persistent drivers of technological development. Companies develop new technologies like AI and robotics because they see profit opportunities. Broad human demands and needs also fuel technological progress. Pursuit of profit through applying science and technology has led to huge economic growth and improvements in living standards over the last 200 years. But individual actors are primarily motivated by monetary gain, not broader goals. Corporations play a large role in driving new technologies like AI due to competitive pressures and potential for efficiency gains or new markets. Huge sums of capital and investment from companies and investors fuel progress. Here are the key points I gathered from the summary. The predictions of huge economic boosts from emerging technologies like AI, biotech, and robotics over the next decade are large numbers that catch the eye. However, over a longer time frame of 50-plus years, the potential impact could be much greater as these technologies permeate the entire global economy, as previous industrial revolutions did. Emerging technologies could lead to not just a one-time boost in economic growth, but a permanent acceleration in the overall growth rate over the long run, if general AI and other technologies unlock new levels of productivity and innovation. The incentives for continued development and rollout of new technologies are immense, as the projected economic returns and profits are in the multiple trillions of dollars. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle of investment, driving more innovation and value creation. While the specific numbers may be uncertain, the fundamental drivers of things like AI, biotech, and robotics augmenting human capabilities have huge potential to impact our lives, work, and economies in transformative ways if broadly adopted, just as prior major technologies did over centuries. So in summary, the predictions of double-digit percentage boosts to global GDP may be conservative based on historical analogy, and the economic and societal incentives are strongly aligned for continued technological progress and integration into our systems. The potential impacts over the longer run of 50-plus years could significantly exceed what is projected for the next decade alone. Technologies are being developed rapidly due to a combination of national, corporate, and ego-driven incentives. No one entity is fully in control of where technologies will lead. Information spreads instantly globally through digital networks, so ideas and breakthroughs get copied and improved upon quickly by many players simultaneously. This makes containment or limitation of new technologies very challenging. Scientists and inventors are driven by both altruistic and competitive motives, like status, success, making history. This ego-competitive element is an underappreciated factor that propels new technologies forward. The system of technology development has become a complex, interlocking set of incentives that continually reinforce each other. Slowing down progress is seen as antithetical by many players for strategic, profit, or prestige reasons. While concerns over impacts are legitimate, the trajectory of certain key technologies like AI, biotech, and clean energy innovations seems inexorable, given the challenges of dismantling or interrupting the momentum across scientific, corporate, and geopolitical spheres. Nation-states are the main entities that could potentially provide solutions, but they themselves face immense strains, and the effects of new technologies on societies and politics remain highly uncertain with potentially complicated consequences. Overall containment of the coming wave of technologies will be very difficult, given these interconnected challenges. The passage argues that while nation-states have historically enabled peace and prosperity through centralized power and military force, emerging technologies now threaten to disrupt this equilibrium. It raises concerns about whether nation-states can adequately manage and regulate new technologies for the benefit of citizens. Key points made. Over the past 500 years, centralizing power in nation-states has generally allowed peace, economic growth, and security. However, technologies are now fracturing this grand bargain. New AI, biotech, and other technologies pose profound challenges to the ability of liberal democracies to contain their impact and ensure technologies benefit citizens. The author's experiences in government and nonprofits showed them the limitations of existing institutions to address complex global problems quickly enough. While technology alone cannot solve social problems, it can amplify our ability to act at scale more rapidly than traditional policies. However, its downsides must also be addressed. Some tech advocates actively welcome the demise of the nation-state system, but the author argues this outcome would be disastrous. The key question is whether nation-states can manage emerging technologies for citizens' benefit. The author argues that nation-states around the world are in a fragile state and ill-prepared to deal with upcoming technological disruptions like AI and synthetic biology. Democracies are losing trust as inequality increases. Populism and authoritarianism are on the rise globally. Nationalism is increasing as well. Previous technological waves like the internet and smartphones contributed to rising political polarization, distrust in institutions, and populism by enabling emotional and outrage-driven content to spread widely on social media. Technology has already eroded borders and created global flows of information, capital, etc., that nation-states struggle to manage. It touches all aspects of life and is a major geopolitical factor. The coming technological wave will hit societies that are already unstable, polarized, incompetent, and strained by current challenges like inflation, energy issues, stagnant incomes. Containing new technologies will be extremely difficult in this environment. The author argues technology is not neutral, but has profound political implications. Its development has been too fast for models of containment, and it amplifies underlying fragilities in nation-states. The story discusses how technology and politics are intrinsically linked, and how new technologies can have major political consequences by altering social and power structures. It argues that technologies are not neutral and do not simply push society in predetermined directions, but they do tend to enable certain capabilities and outcomes over others. While they don't deterministically cause behaviors, the possibilities they create can guide and constrain human actions and history. Military technologies have historically been central to state power. New technologies like AI, robotics, and biotech will likewise have profound and lasting effects on society and politics, potentially upending the current political economic order. The potential unleashed by technologies like advanced robots is not neutral or benign, as they will be applied in many socioeconomic and political domains and impact institutions like law enforcement, the military, healthcare, and more. Their spread raises important questions around ownership, control, safeguards, and implications for work and the economy. In summary, the story argues that new technologies have political valences and tend to reshape power dynamics and possibilities in a way that must be thoughtfully managed, as their effects will not be neutral or without major consequence for societies and states. WannaCry and NotPetya ransomware attacks relied on conventional cyber weapons stolen from the NSA rather than sophisticated next-wave technologies. Future attacks may not be so limited, as next-generation cyber weapons incorporating advanced AI machine learning could evolve and mutate while spreading, learning to avoid detection and shutdown attempts. These emerging technologies will further amplify existing vulnerabilities and challenges for nation-states by decentralizing and democratizing access to powerful capabilities. Anyone will soon have equal access to tools like advanced assistants, robots, DNA synthesis, etc., as costs plummet, aiding both beneficial and harmful goals. This represents both a huge prosperity boost, but also more opportunities for chaos, as bad actors are empowered with amplified capabilities before defenses catch up. Near-term examples discussed include how autonomous weapons like armed robots could enable isolated individuals to carry out lethal attacks at scale without getting caught, challenging the state's monopoly on force. The key point is that future cyber and other attacks may go far beyond what we've seen so far by leveraging advanced AI in openly accessible ways, further stressing nation-state control and responses. An Iranian nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, was assassinated in 2020 using a remote-controlled weapon system with AI and cameras. The gun could fire 600 rounds per minute and was mounted on a truck. A human authorized the strike, but the AI automatically adjusted the gun's aim. This assassination showed how advanced robotic weapons can reduce barriers to violence. Future robots may have facial recognition, DNA sequencing, and be able to fire weapons. They could be very small, like birds or bees, and accessible to more people. By 2028, military drones will be fully autonomous in many cases. Startups are developing autonomous drone networks and other AI military applications. Miniaturized drones could be weapons for paramilitaries or individuals. AI weapons will also improve themselves over time through reinforcement learning. They could develop new attack strategies by testing millions of possibilities. Combined with other technologies, this increases risks of cyber attacks, exploitation of legal financial systems, and manipulation of human psychology. Offensive military capabilities that were once only available to nation-states are now proliferating more widely due to declining costs and accessibility of technologies. This empowers more bad actors and opens up new vectors of attack against critical infrastructure and systems. The passage discusses the growing threat of deepfakes and synthetic media and the challenges they pose. It provides several examples of how deepfakes have already been used, such as a video targeting a political candidate and an altered video of Nancy Pelosi. The technology to generate near-perfect deepfakes is becoming easier to access through tools like AI models. Deepfakes will soon be indistinguishable from real media. This could enable more sophisticated disinformation campaigns prior to elections, with the goal of sowing instability. Individual citizens will struggle to verify information given the high volume of potential fakes. States like Russia are already running disinformation campaigns at scale on platforms like Facebook. Deepfakes will exacerbate such operations by automating the production of high-quality synthetic media. While bot-generated fakes are currently low quality, advanced deepfakes change this. The passage also discusses how even accidental leaks from biosecure labs researching dangerous pathogens like the 1977 Russian flu demonstrate how good intentions can still unintentionally amplify fragility and instability. Advancing biotechnology also poses new risks that are difficult to manage. In summary, the core argument is that rapidly advancing generative technologies like deepfakes will empower both malicious and unintentional propagation of misinformation at scale, undermining trust and stability in the information ecosystem. Close oversight and management of these technologies is needed. Gain-of-function (GOF) research deliberately engineers pathogens to be more lethal or infectious. This is controversial, as it could potentially allow a deadly disease to become a pandemic if released, even accidentally. There have been past lab leaks of SARS from biosafety labs in Singapore, Taiwan, and China. A smallpox vial was also recently found unsecured in a freezer near Philadelphia. Most scientists don't report lab accidents publicly. A 2014 risk assessment estimated a 10% chance of a major lab leak from biosafety labs over a decade. Some evidence suggests COVID-19 may have originated from a research lab in Wuhan that studied coronaviruses. While not proven, a lab leak is considered a plausible hypothesis. Automation and AI are displacing many white-collar jobs like data entry, customer service, writing. While new jobs have historically replaced old ones, advanced AI may be able to perform most cognitive tasks more cheaply than human labor. This could lead to widespread technological unemployment if few new jobs are created. GOF research and lab leaks illustrate how new technologies can have unintended consequences like accidents or pandemic outbreaks. Advanced AI also risks significantly disrupting labor markets on a huge scale. Proper risk mitigation of emerging technologies is important given their potential impacts. New technologies like AI, automation, and industrialized misinformation are amplifying existing fragilities and undermining nation-states. These issues are interrelated and will intersect, compounding their destabilizing effects in unpredictable ways. While the full consequences are not yet clear, the disruptive impacts on jobs, economies, government finances and services, and social cohesion will be significant in the medium term. Even optimistic scenarios involve political upheaval from unemployment, insecure workers, broken government budgets, and angry populations. Unlike past technological revolutions, AI automation affects every sector and level of society simultaneously. This redistributes power widely and shakes the foundations of the nation-state system. The general purpose and ubiquitous nature of these technologies means their amplification of fragility is not confined to specific issues. It threatens to transform the basic ground on which society is built. This raises major questions about the future stability and viability of nations in the face of such a disruption of the existing social and political order. The introduction of stirrups and heavy cavalry units by Charles Martel revolutionized warfare, allowing him to defeat the Saracens invading France. This required significant societal changes, as cavalry required horses, armor, extensive training, and a warrior elite class to maintain it all. Martel and his successors expropriated church lands to support this new warrior elite in exchange for military service. Over time, this developed into the feudal system of Europe, with networks of obligations between lords and vassals, and a large peasant class of serfs. Feudalism became the dominant political and social system across Europe for nearly 1,000 years, all stemming from this initial military innovation of stirrups and heavy cavalry. New technologies often enable new centers of power and require entire new social infrastructures and institutions to support them, as seen with feudalism developing from stirrup technology. This process is continuing today, with technologies concentrating power in corporations, but also potentially dispersing it to individuals, creating contradictory trends and uncertainty around the future of nation-states. The passage discusses how powerful private corporations and governments may grow in the future due to new technologies. Some key points. Corporations like Samsung have already effectively become parallel governments in some countries due to their massive size and influence over many aspects of society and the economy. New technologies will allow a small number of giant corporations to take over roles traditionally held by governments, such as dispute resolution, education, and perhaps even law enforcement. This could challenge the power and authority of nation-states. Nations may use new surveillance technologies to tighten their authoritarian grip on power and information. Historic totalitarian regimes failed because they could not fully control and plan society. But new technologies could potentially allow extremely concentrated power and control. Both corporations and authoritarian governments could gain unprecedented new powers from emerging technologies like AI and quantum computing. This could lead to further concentration of wealth, economic power, and control over populations in both the private and public sectors. In summary, the passage discusses how new technologies may empower both giant corporations and authoritarian governments, potentially challenging the traditional powers and roles of nation-states. Both private and public entities could gain unprecedented new abilities to concentrate power and wealth. Advanced technologies like AI and mass surveillance threaten to massively increase state power and control over populations. A single centralized system combining disparate databases could monitor and react to threats in real time. China is currently the most advanced in these technologies, using extensive CCTV, facial recognition, license plate tracking, health monitoring, etc., to tightly control its citizens, especially the Uyghur minority. Over half the world's CCTVs are in China. Western governments and companies are also developing and deploying these capabilities, allowing vast amounts of personal data to be collected, analyzed, and used in various ways. Surveillance is now a reality in many urban areas. If such powerful technologies become centralized under repressive states, it could create an unprecedented level of totalitarian control beyond anything seen before. Total information awareness and manipulation of societies at scale would rewrite the concept of state power. However, technologies may also enhance fragmentation of power. Groups like Hezbollah demonstrate how non-state actors can provide services normally associated with states, operating effectively as states within states. This hints at alternative directions for power away from sole centralized control. Hezbollah is a major political force in Lebanon, holding cabinet positions and operating like a conventional political party, while also being a powerful militia. It controls large areas of territory in Lebanon and provides services like schools, hospitals, and infrastructure projects to communities, essentially operating like a state within Lebanon. However, it also has significant military capabilities as a militia, deploying drones, tanks, rockets, and thousands of foot soldiers in support of Assad in Syria and engaging in conflict with Israel. Hezbollah is therefore a hybrid entity, functioning both within and outside Lebanon's state institutions. It picks and chooses responsibilities to serve its own interests, with consequences for Lebanon and the region. The rise of new technologies could enable more entities like Hezbollah by allowing communities to become more self-sufficient and localized, potentially undermining centralized nation-states and increasing fragmentation of power and governance structures. Techno-libertarians like Peter Thiel see the state as limiting and want it to wither away, letting new forms of dissent and communities arise from technology. However, this view fails to recognize the benefits of government. The coming wave of AI and other technologies will amplify existing trends of both centralization and decentralization at the same time. Each individual and organization will have their own powerful AI, altering power dynamics in complex ways. This could lead to more inequality, disruption of democratic systems, and new concentrations of uncontrolled power. It intensifies existing stresses on nation-states' ability to manage these forces and potential risks. Left uncontained, technologies could enable catastrophic outcomes like engineered pandemics sooner than expected. But overly authoritarian control to ensure containment is equally unacceptable and dystopian. This dilemma between catastrophe and dystopia poses the defining challenge of the 21st century. Strong global cooperation will be needed to navigate a middle path and realize technology's promise instead of having it backfire in extreme ways. The passage warns about focusing too much on dramatic but unlikely catastrophic risks from technology while ignoring more immediate dangers. However, dismissing warnings of potential disasters simply because they seem outlandish would be short-sighted. It argues that technological development is rapidly increasing risks. AI in particular has the potential to amplify both benefits and harms as it becomes more advanced. Several scenarios are described to illustrate potential catastrophic threats, including autonomous weaponized drone swarms, bioterrorism using pathogens and information operations, and accidental pandemics resulting from lab leaks or genetic engineering experiments. The concept of an all-powerful AI pursuing an opaque goal in a way that endangers humanity is discussed. While this existential risk scenario is considered too nebulous, AI safety issues still warrant attention given AI's potential as an accelerant of human progress and harms. Within the next decade, AI could enable threats like cyber attacks disrupting critical infrastructure, autonomous weapons causing mass casualties, or medical systems malfunctions. Failure modes and implications of transformative technologies like AI, nanotechnology, and human enhancement are still unknown. Comprehensive safety strategies need to be developed to help manage these rising global catastrophic risks. Here are a few key points this passage makes about emerging technologies and critical infrastructure. AI-enabled cyberweapons, self-assembling automatons, gene drives, and other new biological agents could have catastrophic consequences if released or if control is lost. There would be no going back once such technologies are widely disseminated. Even with good intentions, accidents, errors, or malicious uses are possible as these technologies become more powerful and spread more widely. Maintaining high safety standards globally as technology diffuses will be extremely challenging. New biological and technological capabilities could empower dangerous groups like terrorist cults to carry out attacks on an unprecedented global scale, especially as access to weapons becomes more democratized. Preventing such threats will be difficult. Facing existential risks from uncontrollable technology, governments may feel compelled to tightly control and surveil all technology development and activities to ensure nothing slips through. This could open the door to increased authoritarianism and loss of civil liberties. Emerging technologies thus pose both technological risks and political risks to open societies. The passage emphasizes the potentially catastrophic consequences of losing control over powerful new technologies and argues this could motivate increased government control and surveillance in ways that compromise democracy. It casts the challenges of ensuring safe technological progress and societal openness as deeply interconnected issues. The author argues that public tolerance for surveillance and restrictions on civil liberties may increase in the face of major crises or disasters, as compliance was high at the start of the COVID pandemic. However, this could lead down a slippery slope towards an oppressive surveillance state. Technological failures and calls to prevent future catastrophes could be used to justify expanding surveillance and control. While security is important, increased monitoring also threatens privacy, individual rights, and checks on government power. A techno-dystopia of societal control could emerge over time through gradual expansions of surveillance. The author refers to ancient debates around balancing liberty and security. Major new technologies may enable both global disasters and centralized control on a scale never seen before. What level of monitoring is justified to stop catastrophes, and how could this impact individual sovereignty and privacy worldwide? An overly repressive system could amplify flaws and oppression instead of promoting human well-being. In addition, stagnating technological progress itself could lead to a different type of societal collapse as modern civilization relies on continual improvements to maintain economic growth and living standards, supporting a large global population. A moratorium on new technologies may not avoid potential downsides and could instead result in decline. Overall, the author argues both potential catastrophes and overly repressive responses to them should be avoided. The writer argues that ensuring containment of emerging technologies like AI is paramount but extremely difficult to achieve. Simply calling for more regulation is an oversimplification that does not address the real challenges. Regulations take years to develop and pass, but technology evolves on a much faster weekly, monthly timescale. This makes it nearly impossible for regulators to keep up and appropriately govern new advances. Governments face many other crises like declining trust, inequality, polarization that drain resources away from long-term tech issues. Politicians focus on short-term priorities over complex challenges. Even researchers struggle to keep up with the pace of change. Regulators have fewer resources, so the odds of effective oversight are low. A single new product like Ring doorbells can quickly and profoundly change contexts in a way that existing rules do not anticipate. In summary, while containment is existential, regulation alone is not sufficient, given the scale of changes and gaps between technology development and political legal systems. Deeper solutions need to be explored. Ring had created an extensive network of home security cameras, collecting large amounts of data and images from people's front doors around the world. There is no consistent approach to regulating new powerful platforms like Ring. Issues around privacy, polarization, monopoly power, foreign ownership, and mental health all need to be addressed. Discussions around technology risks are scattered across different media, conferences, and disciplines in isolated silos. They rarely break out of these silos to have a unified conversation. Separate conversations about topics like algorithmic bias, biorisks, drone warfare, jobs impacts, and privacy are actually all aspects of the same overarching phenomenon related to emerging technologies. A unified approach is needed that encapsulates the many interrelated dimensions of risk from this broad technological revolution, rather than isolated insights and efforts. The goal should be containment, nurturing political power, technical expertise, and social norms to constrain technologies and ensure they do more good than harm. While regulation is necessary, it is very challenging to regulate fast-evolving general-purpose technologies used widely in many domains. Regulations will likely have gaps and fall short of effective containment due to complexity and speed of change. Chinese AI development has two tracks: a regulated civilian path and an unregulated military security path that pursues technological advantage without ethical limitations. Regulation alone will not be enough to contain advanced technologies like AI due to deep-seated incentives, problems with enforcement, open research, and financial rewards for pushing boundaries. Containment requires coordination between governments, the private sector, and innovative new incentives. The EU AI Act hints at a possible framework, but more bold steps are needed given the stakes. No entity can likely achieve containment alone. It requires cooperation across borders to shape technology development, prevent proliferation, and provide alternatives to motivate constrained use. International agreements often fail due to conflicting desires for control and advantage. A new grand bargain is needed, where public and private sectors partner in new ways, and all parties take on meaningful sacrifices to demonstrate serious commitment to guiding technologies in safer directions through a systemic approach beyond just regulation. Containment may not seem possible now, but progress could be made with the right vision and coordination. The chapter proposes 10 steps toward containment of advanced technologies like AI. It starts with technical safety measures and expands out to broader interventions. The first step is establishing a major initiative focused on technical safety, similar to the Apollo program. This would involve extensive testing and oversight to proactively address issues. Progress has already been made, addressing problems like bias in large language models through reinforcement learning from human feedback. But more work is still needed. Technical containment measures like physically isolating boxing systems could help stop technologies from interacting with the wider world or escaping. More research is needed into highly secure containment environments. Broader steps move beyond the technical to address incentives, governance, international cooperation, cultural aspects, and public awareness participation. The steps are meant to work together like concentric circles, with each layer building on the previous ones. Individual measures alone would not be sufficient. A comprehensive multi-pronged approach is needed for effective containment of advanced technologies. Safety standards and preparedness measures are important for technologies like AI, biotech, and robotics to ensure they are functionally contained and don't get out of our control. However, compared to the scale of potential issues, research on technical safety is still quite limited. Only a handful of institutions take it seriously. More work and funding is needed in this area through initiatives like an Apollo program for AI safety. 20 to 30% of corporate research budgets could be directed to safety. Technical safety research covers areas like sandboxes for testing AI, uncertainty quantification, explanation, and building critic AIs to monitor other systems. Architectures that encourage self-doubt and human oversight are promising, ensuring the ability to access and correct systems, corrigibility, and building in technical constraints are also important safety challenges. The ultimate goal is an off switch for technologies that could potentially get out of control. In addition to advances in containment, audits and oversight measures are critical to ensure safety implementations are working as intended and systems remain under control. Transparency and verification through audits are important complements to technical safety work. The passage discusses the need for oversight and accountability in developing advanced technologies like AI. It argues for proactively collaborating with experts to independently audit systems through measures like red teaming, where experts try to find vulnerabilities. New institutions and standardized processes are needed to rigorously test systems for safety, integrity, and compliance before deployment. Technical safeguards could include encrypting activity logs to track models' use, or requiring formal proofs that algorithms are constrained to avoid harmful actions. Oversight needs to balance transparency with privacy. Approaches will differ globally and require new laws, though legislation should enforce cooperation, not draconian control. Time is needed to set up proper oversight structures. In the interim, some choke points, like semiconductor chip imports, could be tightened to slow development and buy time. The U.S. recently imposed strict export controls on advanced chips for China, aiming to disrupt its progress in strategic technologies like AI and supercomputing. While a major move, independent oversight remains key for responsible development over the long run. China is cracking down hard on its own technology sector to restrict advancement, especially in semiconductors, where it lags the West. This will significantly slow China's progress in the short to medium term, but they are determined to invest whatever it takes to develop domestic capacity long term. Chinese companies are already finding ways to bypass controls using shell companies and cloud services abroad. The U.S. recently tweaked some advanced AI chips to evade sanctions as well. While controls can be circumvented, they buy valuable time. Time to develop further containment strategies, safety measures, alliances, regulations, and slow the pace of uncontrolled development. Many emerging technologies are highly concentrated in a few critical hubs or choke points, like NVIDIA for AI chips, TSMC for manufacturing, ASML for chip-making machines, cloud providers, undersea cables, rare earth mines, etc. Targeting these points can create rate-limiting factors to regulate development. Both technologists and critics have responsibility. Technologists must proactively work to solve problems and implement containment, not just build freely. Critics also need to get involved in building solutions, not just debate from the sidelines. Credible oversight requires engagement at the practical, implementation level. Research on ethical AI has significantly increased in recent years, both in academia and industry. However, more diversity of perspectives is still needed. For new technologies like AI, we need new business models that incentivize both profit and safety. Traditional corporations primarily focus on shareholder returns, which isn't well suited for technologies that need containment. The author has experimented with alternative governance models at DeepMind and Google, like an independent ethics board, but faced challenges incorporating these ideas into existing corporate structures. Some positive developments include alternative corporate forms, like B Corps, that have social missions in addition to profits. More experimentation is still needed to develop businesses suited for technology containment. Containment will require new generations of companies with founders committed to both profits and positive social contributions. It also requires oversight and criticism from both inside and outside tech companies. The passage argues that technological issues require both technological and political solutions. Governments need to reform, regulate new technologies, and get more involved in technology development to better understand emerging issues. Some key points made. Governments need to invest more in technology R&D to develop in-house expertise and compete for talent. This will give them more control over critical technologies. Regulation is needed but not sufficient alone. Incentives must align public, private, and individual interests with safety and security. Governments should monitor tech developments closely, log harms, and respond quickly to problems. New cabinet positions focused on technology are also needed. Licensing regimes may be required for advanced AI and other technologies, similar to how nuclear is regulated. This creates responsibilities and oversight. Taxation systems need reform to fund welfare programs and ease job disruption through taxes on capital, automation, corporate value, and a universal basic income. So in summary, the passage argues governments must take a more active role in technology development, regulation, and policy measures to adequately respond to challenges from emerging technologies. Both technical and political solutions are required. Regulation of new technologies needs to happen at an international level, as no single country can adequately address issues with global scope on their own. There are precedents of successful international cooperation and treaties to limit technologies, like bans on blinding lasers, biological and chemical weapons, nuclear non-proliferation, and climate change agreements. In particular, times of crisis, even adversaries like the Allies after World War II have come together for cooperation when facing existential threats. Treaties took cooperation even during periods of Cold War tension. New alliances are needed between countries, scientists, and other groups to set limits and oversight for emerging technologies like AI and synthetic biology. Examples of initial cooperation are discussed. The US and China in particular have areas of overlap where cooperation could start, like policies for synthetic biology risks or restraining dangerous non-state actors. Global standards and managing future security threats also provide opportunities. A new international institution is needed to help navigate geopolitics and set pragmatic, objective oversight of technologies rather than direct control. An independent audit authority for AI is presented as one possible model. The passages discuss the need for a culture of respectfully embracing failure in emerging technologies like AI and genetic engineering. It argues this is important for safety, ethics, and containment. It draws an analogy to how embracing failure and open sharing of lessons learned has improved safety enormously in the aviation industry over decades. For new technologies, openly admitting and sharing about mistakes, problems, and failures should be praised rather than criticized in order to encourage learning. Failing and making mistakes is seen as an important part of progress. Important conferences like Suleyman helped establish moral and ethical guidelines for fields like genetic engineering and AI. Similar ongoing discussions are needed for emerging technologies. Broader cultural and social shifts are needed, not just policies and rules. Researchers and engineers need to internalize responsibility and be willing to pause, review risks, and stop work if needed for safety reasons. Overall, it advocates for a precautionary principle and culture where safety is prioritized over just pushing forward applications, along with embracing open communication about problems to support continuous learning and improvement. The assistant is not deliberately trained in deception or manipulation. Its goal is to provide helpful factual summaries to users. The passage discusses the need for a multifaceted, coherent approach to technology containment, called for by thinkers like Kevin Esvelt. It outlines 10 key elements of an effective containment strategy. 1. Technical safety measures to mitigate harms and maintain control of technologies. 2. Audits to ensure transparency and accountability. 3. Choke points like bans or insurance requirements to slow development and buy time for regulation. 4. Responsible development by makers who build in controls from the start. 5. Aligning business incentives with containment goals. 6. Government support through regulation, funding mitigation, and coordinated development. International cooperation to harmonize laws and programs. 8. A culture of openly sharing knowledge to swiftly address issues. 9. Public input and pressure through social movements to hold all elements accountable. 10. Coherence, ensuring the elements work together harmoniously rather than competing haphazardly. Containment requires the careful development and interlocking of these countermeasures over time. It is an ongoing process of enactment rather than a final destination. The passage draws parallels to ideas of a delicate balance of power between states and societies that must be continuously maintained. In the early 19th century, the Industrial Revolution was transforming Britain's textile industry through new technologies like the power loom. This mechanization greatly increased production, but reduced the need for skilled weavers. Traditional weavers saw their jobs, wages, and way of life threatened by the factories and machinery. Conditions in the mills were oppressive for workers, like children. Inspired by the mythical Ned Ludd, weavers organized in protest against pay cuts that failed to factor in rising food costs. A more violent campaign of sabotage emerged, taking the name Luddites after letters signed by General Ludd. In 1811, the Luddites began smashing machinery in textile factories at night, hoping to defend their livelihoods against what they saw as dehumanizing technologies. While they faced repression, the Luddites represented resistance to the immediate human costs of industrial progress. Weavers known as Luddites raided local textile mills, destroying 63 machines to protest the introduction of automation that threatened their livelihoods. Over subsequent months, their raids destroyed hundreds more machines. Their demands were modest: small pay increases, a gradual introduction of new machinery, profit sharing. But laws were passed against them, and militias formed to suppress the movement. While the Luddites only destroyed a few thousand looms at the time, automation of the textile industry expanded greatly. By 1850, there were 250,000 automatic looms in England, destroying the old way of life for weavers. In the long run, the industrial technologies provided huge improvements to living standards. Later descendants of the weavers lived with conditions the Luddites could not have imagined: warm homes, refrigeration, healthcare, extending lives. The story considers how new waves of technology will transform society and our interactions with AI. Issues of adapting technology to human needs and containment of technology's impacts are discussed as vital challenges. Michael wants to thank his co-founders at Canelo, Ian Millar, and Nick Barreto for their ongoing support over an extraordinary decade of partnership. He also wants to especially thank his incredible wife Danny and their sons Monty and Dougie for their support. So in summary, Michael is thanking his business co-founders for 10+ years of support at their company Canelo, but most of all is thanking his family, wife Donnie and sons Monty and Dougie, for their support. Here is a summary of the key points from the provided webpage on the history of the Internet. The Internet has its origins in the late 1960s, when researchers at universities and national laboratories began working on connecting various computer networks together. In the 1970s, significant research was conducted on networking protocols and technologies by computer scientists and engineers. This laid the foundation for the technologies used in today's Internet, such as packet switching. In the 1980s, the National Science Foundation began funding a National Supercomputing Centers program and established a computer network called NSFNet to connect these supercomputing sites. This network later served as the backbone of the commercial Internet. The first web browser, called Mosaic, was introduced in 1993, bringing the power of clicking on hyperlinks to access multimedia information across the Internet. This helped fuel the commercial growth of the Internet. By 1995, the number of commercial Internet users began to rapidly increase as more people gained access through new Internet service providers. Online commerce also began emerging around this time. Today's Internet has billions of users worldwide, connected through both wired and wireless technologies. It continues to rapidly evolve through technological innovations and new applications and platforms. Here is a summary of the key points from the text. Technologies like CRISPR-Cas9 have dramatically lowered the cost and increased the ease of genome editing, allowing researchers to precisely edit DNA sequences. CRISPR was first used for bacterial DNA in 2013 and has since been applied to plants, animals, and human cells. Genome sequencing costs have dropped exponentially following the Human Genome Project, with a human genome now able to be sequenced for around $100. Improved sequencing techniques are making genomics more accessible. CRISPR applications are expanding to areas like disease treatment, biofortifying crops, developing bioweapons, and combating viruses like SARS-CoV-2. It could offer treatments for many genetic diseases and conditions. Synthetic biology is allowing for new life forms to be designed and built from scratch. Benchtop DNA synthesis machines let individuals print long DNA strands at home. Companies can now produce millions of DNA base pairs per day at low cost. These technologies are lowering the barriers to genetic engineering and allowing more researchers, companies, and individuals to directly edit life at the molecular level. Issues may arise regarding safety, security, and ethics as synthetic biology continues advancing. Here is a summary of the key points from the references. DNA Script is developing the world's first DNA printer, which could enable on-demand DNA synthesis and accelerate scientific discovery. Rogers. New enzymatic techniques are improving the efficiency and scale of DNA synthesis. Eisenstein. Synthetic biology combines DNA synthesis with understanding of gene regulation and metabolic engineering to program cells to produce desired molecules. Endy. In 2010, Craig Venter's team created the first self-replicating synthetic bacterial cell. By 2013, others had chemically synthesized a bacterial genome. Venter, Venetz et al. The GP Wright Consortium aims to enable the synthesis of any genome at low cost using a common set of genetic parts. GP Wright. Gene therapies are increasing, like using light-sensing proteins to partially restore vision in a blind patient. Sahel et al. CAR T-cell therapies reprogram immune cells to target cancers. Systems biology studies biology as a system with applications for personalized medicine. Vicente et al. Developing anti-aging drugs aims to prevent age-related decline on a cellular level. Regalado, Yang et al. Synthetic biology is contributing to industries like producing chemicals from carbon dioxide and developing new materials. Arnold, Can et al. Urquhart. DNA data storage could store all human knowledge in a few grams. AI like AlphaFold is vastly accelerating protein structure prediction, revealing the protein universe. DeepMind, Al-Quraishi, Lewis. It has opened new avenues for drug design. Brain-computer interfaces and in vitro neurons show early promise for treating paralysis and potentially regaining cognitive abilities. Cervic, Kagan et al. Advancing robotics include fully autonomous mobile robots in warehouses, robots performing surgery, delivery robots, and robot bees. Quantum computing promises enormous computing power for complex problems. Here is a summary of the key points about quantum computing from the provided reference. Quantum computing harnesses the properties of quantum mechanics to perform certain types of calculations much more quickly than classical computers. It uses quantum bits, qubits, that can exist in superposition and entanglement. When scaled up, quantum computers could solve certain problems like simulation, optimization, and machine learning that are intractable for classical computers. This includes simulating chemical reactions, optimizing logistics, and training quantum neural networks. Major tech companies like Google, IBM, Microsoft, and Intel are working on developing quantum computers. Approaches include superconducting qubits, trapped ions, and photonic qubits. Current quantum devices still have limited qubits, and error rates are too high for fault-tolerant quantum computing. But the field is progressing rapidly, with qubits and coherence times increasing every year. Quantum algorithms show potential speedups for tasks like database searches, cryptography breaking, and simulation. But a universal quantum computer capable of running Shor's or Grover's algorithms at scale has not been built yet. Quantum computing is still in the early research stage, but could have huge impacts if the technology matures to adequately tackle practical problems beyond what's classically possible. Many challenges around scaling, error correction, and developing algorithms remain. Here is a summary of the key ideas from UGL for Technological Supremacy, London, Hurst, 2020. China has made huge strides in recent years to become a world leader in advanced technologies like AI and quantum computing. It has large R&D budgets, top universities, and a strategic national plan to dominate these fields. Other nations like the US, France, India, Russia, and others have scrambled to develop their own national AI strategies in response, seeing leadership in AI as crucial for economic growth, national security, and global influence. Private companies also spend enormous sums on R&D, rivaling or exceeding national budgets. Tech giants like Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft spend tens of billions annually researching new technologies. Throughout history, new technologies like railways or the internet spurred massive economic transformations and periods of rapid growth as innovations spread and were commercialized. Leadership in emerging technologies tends to translate to broader economic and geostrategic leadership. While competition is intensifying, collaboration remains important for progress. Open science traditions help maximize humanity's gains from technological advancement overall. National ambitions must be balanced with cooperation to ensure new technologies improve lives worldwide. Here is a summary of the key points from the article S&P 500 Index July 2022 from WSPglobal.com. SPDJI Indices Equity SP 500. The S&P 500 Index tracks the performance of 500 large companies listed on stock exchanges in the United States. It is one of the most commonly followed equity indices. As of July 2022, the top 10 holdings by weight were Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Alphabet, Berkshire Hathaway, United Health, Johnson & Johnson, ExxonMobil, and Procter & Gamble. These companies made up over 22% of the index. The index is weighted by market capitalization, meaning companies with higher share prices and more shares outstanding have a greater influence on the index's performance. Sector weights vary over time as shares rise and fall. As of July 2022, the top 3 sectors were information technology at 27%, healthcare at 14%, and communications services at 11%. The index is reconstituted annually in September to ensure adequate representation of the U.S. public equity market. Companies may be added or removed based on rules around liquidity, public float, and size. Created in 1957, the S&P 500 is one of the most important benchmarks for the overall U.S. stock market, tracking the performance of the largest publicly traded companies. It provides a good overall view of the American economy. Here are the key points from the cited report. The report analyzes population change in the United States from 2014-2060 based on census data and projections. It finds that racial and ethnic minorities will account for the entire U.S. population growth over this period, with the white non-Hispanic population increasing by only 0.1%. The Hispanic population is projected to nearly double, from 55 million in 2014 to 111.2 million in 2060, accounting for over half of total U.S. population growth. The Asian population is projected to increase from 15.8 million to 34.4 million over this period. The Black population is projected to increase from 41.2 million to 61.8 million. 4 states, California, Texas, Florida, and New York, will account for over 40% of total U.S. population growth from 2014 to 2060. By 2044, minorities are projected to outnumber non-Hispanic whites in the total U.S. population. So in summary, the report analyzes census projections showing that U.S. population growth through 2060 will be driven entirely by increases in racial ethnic minorities, with Hispanics accounting for over half of total growth. This results in minorities outnumbering non-Hispanic whites nationally by 2044, based on current trends. Here is a summary of the key points from the Microsoft Blogs post, Digital Defense Report 2021. Governments and other organizations face increasing risks from digital threats like hacks, disinformation campaigns, and deepfakes. These threats come primarily from states using these tactics for geopolitical purposes. Over 70 countries have been found to use disinformation on social media to manipulate public opinion. State actors like China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are increasing their use of these tactics. Deepfakes have the potential to undermine trust in key institutions and democratic processes if people can't trust the legitimacy of video and image evidence. This could lead to an infocalypse, where truth is difficult to discern. Accidental and intentional releases of pathogens from labs conducting research on infectious diseases pose growing risks as the number of such high-containment labs increases globally. There have been several documented leaks and escapes of pathogens in recent decades. Governing and regulating rapidly advancing technologies like AI and biotechnology will become more challenging. Areas like gene editing and gain-of-function research are controversial, and accidents could have widespread effects. Close monitoring and oversight will be needed. Here is a summary of the paper, Robots and Jobs, Evidence from U.S. Labor Markets by Darren Acemoglu and Pasquale Restrepo, published in the Journal of Political Economy in 2020. The paper empirically examines the impact of industrial robots on U.S. labor markets between 1990 and 2007. Using regional differences in robot adoption across industries, they find that one more robot per 1,000 workers reduces the employment to population ratio by about 0.18 to 0.34 percentage points and wages by 0.25 to 0.5%. However, they do not find conclusive evidence that robots reduce total employment. While robots substitute for labor in routine tasks, they may also complement and increase demand for labor in other occupations. Overall, the impact of robots depends on how labor markets adjust through the creation of new jobs, tasks, and industries over the longer run. The paper provides evidence that robots have affected the quantity and quality of U.S. jobs to date, although their net effect on total employment is still unclear based on available data. Here are the summaries of the reference texts. Renewable power costs in 2019, IRENA, June 20.irena.org/publication/2020 power costs in 2019. This report from the International Renewable Energy Agency discusses trends in electricity costs from various renewable power generation technologies in 2019. Hyper-libertarian technologists James Dale Davidson and William Rees-Mogg, The Sovereign Individual, Mastering the Transition to the Information Age, New York, Touchstone, 1997. This book by hyper-libertarian technologists argues that technological advances will undermine the nation-state and usher in a new era of individual sovereignty. A Bonfire of Public Services, Peter Thiel, The Education of a Libertarian Unbound, April 13, 2009, www.cato-unbound.org/04/13, Peter Thiel, Education-Libertarian. C. Balaji Srinivasan, The Network State, 1729 Publishing, 2022, for a more thoughtful take on how technological constructs might supersede the nation-state. This note references an essay by Peter Thiel outlining his libertarian views, including a critique of public services, and a subsequent book by Balaji Srinivasan exploring how technology could impact the role of nation-states. Founded in the 1980s, Om Shinrikyo see Richard Danzig and Zachary Hosford, Om Shinrikyo, 2nd edition, English, CNS, December 20, 2012, wcns.org/publications reports, Shinrikyo, 2nd edition, English. And Philip C. Bleek, Revisiting Om Shinrikyo, New Insights into the Most Extensive Non-State Biological Weapons Program to Date, James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, December 10, 2011, .nti.org analysis/articles, Revisiting AUM Shinrik New Insights Most Extensive Non-State Biological Weapons Program, Date 1. This note provides background on the doomsday cult Om Shinrikyo, which carried out a sarin gas attack in Tokyo in 1995, citing 2 reports analyzing the group. As a report on the implications Danzig and Hosford, Om Shinrikyo, this note references the previous Danzig and Hosford report on Om Shinrikyo as providing analysis and implications of the group. Here are the summaries of the note references in the text. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA Safety Standards, International Atomic Energy Agency, www.org/resources, Safety Standards/search, facility equals all and term node TID depth 2, and field publication series info value equals combining and items per page equals 100. This reference is to the website of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, and their safety standards. The main monitor of bioweapons Toby Ord, The Precipice, Existential Risk and the Future of Humanity, London, Bloomsbury, 2020, 57. This reference is to the book The Precipice by Toby Ord, citing page 57, which likely discusses the monitoring of bioweapons. The number of AI safety researchers, Benach and Hogarth, State of AI Report 2022. This reference is to the report State of AI Report 2022 by Benach and Hogarth, which likely contains data on the number of AI safety researchers. Given there are around in Porth, for an estimate the number of AI researchers, see What is Effective Altruism, www.activealtruism.org/articles/introduction to Effective ALFFM 15. This reference directs the reader to a footnote in an article on the website effectivealtruism.org for an estimate of the number of AI researchers. The original Apollo missions NASA benefits from Apollo Giant Leaps in Technology, NASA Facts, July 2004, u.nasa.gov/defaults 8A66 neuropolyfs.pdf. This reference is to a NASA document from 2004 discussing the technological benefits that resulted from the original Apollo missions to the moon. Giving off light, Kevin M. Esvelt, Delay, Detect, Defend, Preparing for a Future in Which Thousands Can Release New Pandemics, Geneva Center for Security Policy, November 14, 2022, damned GCSP/files/GCSP-29-22. This reference is to a paper by Kevin M. Esvelt discussing strategies for dealing with the potential future release of pandemics by thousands of actors, published by the Geneva Center for Security Policy. There's also great work being done, JICA, Alignment Optimism, Aligned, Discover 5th, 2022, align.substack.com, /piche, alignment-optimism. This reference directs the reader to a blog post titled Alignment Optimism by Jan Like on the Aligned website, discussing optimistic work being done in the field of AI alignment. The computer scientist Stuart Russell, Human Compatible. This reference is to the book Human Compatible by computer scientist Stuart Russell. This means attacking your systems Nepther. Deep Ganguly et al. Red teaming language models to reduce harms, methods, scaling behaviors, and lessons learned. ArcSiv, November 22, 2022, ArcSiv ETF 2029.07858.pdf. This reference is to an ArcSiv paper by Deep Ganguly et al. Discussing methods for red teaming, attacking language models to identify vulnerabilities and reduce potential harms. On the technical side, Sam R. Bowman et al. Measuring progress on scalable oversight for large language models. ArcSiv November 11-22, ArcSiv ABS 2211.U354. This reference is to an ArcSiv paper by Sam R. Bowman et al. Measuring progress on oversight techniques for large language models. At present, only a fraction security DNA project, Securing Global Biotechnology, Secure DNA, securna.org. This reference is to the website of the Security DNA Project, which aims to secure global biotechnology. Xi Jinping was worried. Ben Murphy, Choke Points, China's Self-Identified Strategic Technology Import Dependencies, Center for Security and Emerging Technology, May 2022, csc.georgetown.edu/publications/chokepoints. This reference is to a report by Ben Murphy from the Center for Security and Emerging Technology discussing China's strategic technology import dependencies. Indeed, China spends more. Chris Miller, Chip War, The Fight for the World's Most Critical Technology, New York, Scribner, 2022. This reference is to the book Chip War, The Fight for the World's Most Critical Technology by Chris Miller. One technology executive, Dmitry Sevastopoulos and Catherine Hilla, U.S. hits China with sweeping tech export controls. Financial Times, October 7, 2022. WWFT.com/content 6825B4.52A4C86B1A 31C178C3E. This reference is to a Financial Times article interviewing a technology executive about U.S. export controls on China. In the short to medium term, Gregory C. Allen, Choking Off China's Access to the Future of AI for Strategic and International Studies, October 11, 2022, www.csis.analysis. China's Access Future AI. This reference is to an analysis by Gregory C. Allen from CSIS about choking off China's access to the future of AI. If it takes hundreds of billions, Julie Zhu, China readying a $143 billion package for its chip firms in face of U.S. curbs. Reuters, December 14, 2022. Reuters.com/technology. China plans over $143 billion push boost domestic chips, compete with us. Sources 2022-12-13. This reference is to a Reuters article about China readying a $143 billion package to boost its domestic chip industry in response to U.S. export controls. NVIDIA, the American manufacturer Stephen Nellis and Jane Lee. NVIDIA tweaks flagship H100 chip for export to China as H800. Reuters, March 22, 2023. www.reuters.com/technology/Nvidia-tweaks flagship H100 chip, export China, 2023-0321. This reference is to a Reuters article about Nvidia tweaking its flagship H100 chip for export to China. ASML's machines. Moreover, not just the machines, but many component parts have only one manufacturer, like high-end lasers from Cymer or mirrors from Zeiss, so pure that, were they the size of Germany, an irregularity would be only a few millimeters wide. This reference provides additional context about ASML's lithography machines and their unique component parts from single manufacturers. These three companies have software. See, for example, Michael Filler on Twitter, May 25, 2022, twitter.com/michaelfiller/status 152963696183984. This reference directs the reader to a Michael Filler tweet from May 2022, for an example related to these three companies. A crunch on the rare earth. Where is the greatest risk to our mineral resource supplies? USGS, February 21st, 2020. www.usgs.gov/news/nationals news release/new methodology mineral commodities whose supply disruption, QT News Science Products, Qt News Science Products. This reference is to a USGS article about risks to mineral resource supplies, specifically rare earth elements. Some 80% of the high-quality quartz Zehan, the end of the world is just the beginning, 314. This reference is to the book The End of the World is Just the Beginning by Zehan, citing page 314, which likely discusses the source of high-quality quartz. Indeed, at times shrill criticism, Levin's You're Doing It Wrong, Notes on Criticism and Technology Hype, Medium, February 1st, 2021. sts.news.medium.com/You're Doing It Wrong, Notes on Criticism and Technology Hype, 18B08B 4-75. This reference is to a Medium post by Lee Vinsel about criticism of technology hype. Promisingly, research on ethical AI, Stanford University Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence Index Report 2021. This reference is to the Artificial Intelligence Index Report 2021, published by Stanford University's Human-Centered AI Initiative. Major shortfalls. For example, Shannon Valor, Mobilizing the Intellectual Resources of the Arts and Humanities, Ada Lovelace Institute, June 25, 2021. adalovelace.org/blog/mobilizing intellectual resources arts humanities. This reference provides an example of shortfalls in Shannon Valor's blog post on the Ada Lovelace Institute site. Forming a coalition. KC James on Twitter, March 20th, 2019. Twitter.com/KColesJames status/10836538794984797. This reference directs to a KC James tweet from March 2019 about forming a coalition. There's a good chance of positive B Corps go beyond business as usual. BLab, March 1st, 2023. bcorporation.net/enus/press. B Corps go beyond business as usual for B Corp month 2023. This reference is to a B-Lab press release about B Corps going beyond business as usual. Although today companies have U.S. Research and Development Funding and Performance Fact Sheet, Congressional Research Service, September 13, 2022, sgp.fast.org/crr4th PDF. This reference is to a Congressional Research Service fact sheet on U.S. R&D funding and performance. Investing in science and technology. See, for example, Mariana Mazzucato, The Entrepreneurial State, Debunking Public versus Private Sector Myths, London, Anthem Press, 2013. This reference provides an example book by Mariana Mazzucato on investing in science and technology. Their first task should be bore. These points are well made in Jess Whittlestone and Jack Clark, Why and How Governments Should Monitor AI Development, Arxiv, August 31st, 2021, arxiv.org/pdf/208.12427.pdf. This reference directs to an Arxiv paper by Whittlestone and Clark, making points about government's first task in monitoring AI development. In 2015, there was virtually legislation related to artificial intelligence, National Conference of State Legislatures, August 26, 2022, .ncsl.org/research/telecommunications and information technology/2020-legislation related to artificial intelligence.aspx. This reference is to an NCSL page tracking legislation related to artificial intelligence over the years. The OECD AI Policy Observatory National AI Policies and Strategies, OECD AI Policy Observatory, OECD.ai/dashboard/overview. This reference is to the OECD AI Policy Observatory's dashboard tracking national AI policies and strategies. In 2022, the White House released Fact Sheet, Biden-Harris administration announces key actions to advance tech accountability and protect the rights of the American public. White House, October 4th, 2022. w.whitehouse.gov/OSCP news-updates. 2022/04. Fact-sheet Biden administration announces key actions to advance tech accountability and protect the rights of the American public. This reference is to a White House fact sheet announcing key Biden administration actions on tech accountability and protecting public rights. Today, U.S. labor is taxed. Darren Acemoglu et al. Taxes, Automation and the Future of Labor. MIT Work of the Future. mitslone.edu/shared ODS documents. Publication document ID =7929. This reference is to a paper by Acemoglu et al. on how U.S. labor is taxed in relation to automation. This is sometimes called Arnaud Costaneau and Yvonne Werning, Robots, Trade, and Luddism, a sufficient statistic approach to optimal technology regulation. Review of Economic Studies, Nova 4th, 2022, academic.oop.com/advanced article /dentown on 9/0076/6798670. This reference is to a paper by Costaneau and Werning introducing the concept of a robot tax. MIT economists have argued Darren Acemoglu et al. Does the U.S. tax code favor automation? Brookings Papers on Economic Activity, Spring 2020, brookings.edu, W contents upload/2020 acemoglu-final.pdf. This reference is to a Brookings paper where MIT economists argue the U.S. tax code favors automation. In an era of hyperscaling, Sam Altman, Moore's Law for Everything. Sam Altman, March 16, 2021, moores.samaltman.com. This reference is to a post by Sam Altman about Moore's Law scaling to other technologies. Use of blinding laser weapons, the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, United Nations.un.org/disarmament/the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. This reference is to the UN page on the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, which regulates certain laser weapons. A study of 106 countries, Françoise Baylis et al., Human Germline and Heritable Genome Editing, The Global Policy Landscape, CRISPR Journal, October 20, 2020, .libertpub.com/10.189 CRISPR, No 082. This reference is to a study in the CRISPR Journal analyzing policies on genome editing across 106 countries. In the aftermath of the first Eric S. Lander et al., Adopt a Moratorium on Heritable Genome Editing, Nature, March 13, 2019, www.nature.com/articles D41586019725. This reference is to a Nature article in the aftermath of the first genome-edited babies, calling for a moratorium. By the early 2010s, Peter Dizikis, study Commercial Air Travel is Safer Than Ever. MIT News, January 23, 2020. News 2020 study-commercial-flights safer ever-0124. This reference is to an MIT News article about a study finding commercial air travel is safer than ever. We met again in 2017, AI Principles, Future of Life Institute, August 11, 2017, futureoflife.org/open-letter AASH Principles. This reference is to the Future of Life Institute's list of draft AI principles from 2017, Social and Moral Responsibility. Joseph Rotblat, A Hippocratic Oath for Scientists, Science, November 19, 1999, www.science.org/101126/science.28654441475. This reference is to a Science magazine article by Joseph Rotblat calling for a Hippocratic Oath for scientists, because we build technology. See, for example, proposals from Rich Sutton, Creating Human-Level AI, How and When, University of Alberta, Canada, futureoflife.org/PDF, richsutton.pdf, Nashud. Azimar, We Are the Ones Who Decide What We Want from the Tools We Build, Azar, Exponential 253. Or Kai-Fu Lee, We Will Not Be Passive Spectators in the Story of AI, We Are the Authors of It. Kai-Fu Lee and Chufan Cheng, AI 2041, 10 Visions for Our Future, London, W.H. Allen, 2037. This reference provides examples of proposals about how we shape the future of technology we build. Communication around AI, Patrick O'Shea et al., Communicating about the Social Implications of AI, a Framework Strategic Brief, Frameworks Institute, October 19, 2021, www.frameworksinstitute.org/publications communicating-about. This reference is to a Frameworks Institute brief about communicating the social implications of AI. Here is a summary of the key points from the document. The social implications of AI- a Framework Strategic Brief. AI and emerging technologies will have widespread social and economic impacts that need to be proactively managed. They could exacerbate inequality and power imbalances if unchecked. Governments and companies developing AI have a responsibility to consider issues like algorithmic bias, privacy, job disruption, and concentration of power control over data and infrastructure. Future technologies will be highly interconnected, coming wave, so their impacts and risks also need to be addressed systemically rather than in isolation. Factors like profit motives and geopolitics could accelerate threats. Containment strategies are recommended to help guide development in safe, beneficial directions. This includes international cooperation, integrated multi-stakeholder governance, oversight, safety research, responsible innovation principles, and ensuring broad access to benefits. Public awareness and participation is important to building accountability. Emerging technologies also need to be designed and applied to empower individuals and communities rather than disempower them. If handled responsibly and for the benefit of humanity, emerging technologies could help address major global challenges like disease, climate change, and shortage of resources. But the risks of misuse or unintended consequences also need to be taken seriously through proactive guidance and safeguards. That covers the key summary points discussed in the strategic brief regarding the social implications of AI and frameworks for responsibly guiding emerging technologies. Let me know if any part needs clarification or expansion. Here is a summary of the key points from the provided passages. Technologies have characteristics that influence how easily they can be contained, including transferability, observability, commercial viability, and dual-use potential. These characteristics determine what methods of containment may or may not work. Regulation is one method that has been used historically to attempt to contain new technologies. Examples include attempts to regulate the Industrial Revolution in the late 18th, early 19th century. Containment of new technologies is an ongoing challenge, as evidenced by terms like containment problem and discussions of containment throughout history. Total containment is essentially impossible once a technology is introduced. New technologies like autonomous weapons, gene editing, synthetic biology, and AI all pose containment challenges due to their dual-use potential and other characteristics. Methods like export controls, regulations, and international agreements have been used or proposed to try to manage risks. Containment is also discussed in the context of limiting the negative impacts of technologies on issues like jobs, climate change, proliferation, and more. Containment may aim to shape how technologies are developed and used. Corporations can both help and hinder containment efforts due to their concentrated power and role in developing and spreading new technologies globally. International cooperation is discussed as important for technology governance challenges. Nations and other parties have strategic incentives related to technologies like AI that complicate cooperative containment governance efforts due to competitive pressures and conflicting interests. This is discussed in terms of a potential arms race dynamic. Nation-states play an important role in regulating and containing powerful new technologies like AI and synthetic biology. Their regulation of these technologies can help address issues like inequality, maintain equilibrium and trust in society, and ensure technologies develop alongside human values. However, nation-states themselves are facing challenges to their power and authority from forces like globalization, the rise of corporations, and technologies that don't respect geographic boundaries. Their ability to regulate powerful new technologies may be limited. Technologies are also in a symbiotic relationship with nation-states. They have amplified nation-states' power, but also their fragility by enabling issues like foreign interference. So the relationship goes both ways. Finding the right approach to regulating new technologies will require balancing the roles and limitations of nation-states with other approaches like international agreements and norms. Overall, effective regulation is needed to help maximize technology's benefits and contain their risks.